Ultimatum, queer love, what'll happen this season?
And when I came out to my family, our relationship's never been the same, and my mother hasn't talked to me since.
Okay, so I'm taking notes here. This is Haley and Pilar, and they've been together for 10 years, since they were 18 years old, and it sounds like Pilar came out to her family 2 years ago, and since that point, her mom hasn't talked to her at all. So she's saying, because she's the ultimatum receiver, Pilar, and it sounds like she's about to explain that she doesn't want to get married without her family there. I don't know. Well, we'll see what that's about. But yeah, it's awful.
If you're not ready, I would be willing to walk away.
I will say I've lost both my parents in the past couple of years. The one thing that has resonated with me in my grief.
I don't know if I'm just reading into it with such little information, but Pilar, right from the start, as she was talking about her attitudes, her feelings about getting married or not, to Haley, making sure I'm keeping everyone's name straight, that she said, we met when we were 18. And I think in part she was communicating that to say, look, we've been together for a long time and we love each other, and that's a big deal. So it's not like I'm not dedicated to this relationship. But I also wonder if for Pilar and her hesitation to get married, there's some question as to whether or not it's the right move, because she doesn't maybe have a lot of experiences in long-term relationships outside of Haley, right? It would be completely normal for a couple, Haley and Pilar, to have issues, maybe even just minor issues, but at least issues. And if you've only been with one person since you were 18, there's a question mark there. I'm not saying that you can't meet someone then and stay married for the rest of your life and be happy. I mean, my parents met when they were 16 or 17, and they're still married after going on 62 years now. So, it's not unheard of, and it can be done for sure. But in today's world, I imagine that there would be a question, especially if you're running up against more moderate to severe issues in your relationship. So I don't know if I'm reading into that Pilar's since 18, and I don't know if that's her subconsciously or consciously mentioning that detail. I feel like I'm reading into things because I don't have any information. We're also learning that the host, her parents died recently, so she's about to talk about this. By the way, I'm very close to finishing my book on grief after writing it for 11 years, and I will be happy once it's done, and I am, I think, proud of what I've written. So I am living not only in the academic and the feelings overall about grief, I write about the research and what it's like to be a therapist, and I write about all these different stories of grief from my clients and from my personal life and from people I know. So I don't know how I started that whole sentence, but point is that grief is not the anomaly. It is the rule that the older you get, the more losses that you acquire and the more grieving that we do, and grief doesn't end really. Sometimes, hopefully, the intensity will diminish over time, but it comes and goes, So I commend her for talking about this.
Is that the family that I've built, my husband and my children, is really actually what carries you through.
I don't remember the host chiming in this way the first season. It's been a while, a couple years more. But okay, so Pilar is talking about how she's hesitating to get married because her mom has disowned her and won't talk to her, which is just terrible. And then the host chimes in and says, I lost both my parents recently, and so I understand how that feels. But what gets me through is my family, presumably her partner and kids. Okay, but it seems to be like there's an agenda there on the host's part, right? If she just wants to share, that's fine, but it could come across as the host saying to Pilar, you should be relying on Haley and maybe having kids of your own in lieu of losing your mom because she's a bigot. So I don't know if that's, I mean, I'm putting words in the host's mouth, but I don't know, seems a little, I'm cringing a little bit.
I do believe in love in every form.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only seeing a small edit of what I'm guessing is a long conversation around this table. So I don't know if I missed something, but the host said, I mean, it's fine. She didn't say anything bad. It was just, you appreciate love in all of its forms. What forms are, I don't understand. Okay, the song lyrics on the nose. This is who we are. Come on and celebrate. We were born this. Wait, what was it? Yeah, this is who we are. Yeah, we were born this way. It's a good message. I'm not gonna say it's a bad message, but it's one of those songs that fits almost annoyingly too well for the show. I don't know.
You just have like wandering eyes all the time, and I don't understand it.
My wandering eyes are only because like I'm trying to figure out what's best for me, and like if staying in this relationship means I feel empty, then I am curious. I mean, it's normal to be curious.
Okay, interesting. I don't know exactly what they're meaning by those words, wandering eyes and empty, but it's notable. So, taking notes, this is Ashley and Marita. Ashley, by the way, I appreciate this. I went to the Netflix website, Tadum, I think, Tadum, and I was appreciating that they provided the pronouns of all the cast members because from my memory, last season they didn't do that. I remember I had to look on Instagram for pronouns, and but they provided. They're not including it in the little titles, which I don't know how we feel about that. But the the pronouns for Ashley and Marita are she, her, and also for the other cast members. Just looking through my notes here. We have, well, let me kind of just do a rundown of the couples so far. We have Brittany and AJ, she, her. And then we have Haley and Pilar, she, her. Brittany and AJ, we haven't seen much about that. They've been together 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if Brittany and AJ do get married at the end. It seems like AJ is just a little hesitant, but is open. Haley and Pilar seem like they're very much bonded after 10 years. But I think that question about having met at 18 that Pilar threw out there, Pilar also has her family to contend with. I think Pilar is Filipino. I'm not sure about that. Pilar, I know that, Filipinas that are named Pilar, Asian sister. And so I just did a typo in my notes that I need to correct. And Pilar seems like if it wasn't her mom, maybe they'll even, wow, will they do that? Will they invite the mom on the show? That would be amazing if the mom did that. Kyle and Bridget, they're both she, they. And often with the people in my life that are she, theys or he, theys, what they will tell me is that they're okay with she or he, but they'd rather be they, them, but they don't want to inconvenience people. So they'll say she, they. And to me, that says I will use they, them because that's what they're preferring. And yet with Kyle and Bridget, which I just saw them talking, they've been dating for 2 years. And Kyle is the one giving the ultimatum to Bridget. they both refer to each other as she when they're doing the one-on-one interviews. Now, I don't know if, again, they're just saying she because they don't want to inconvenience the audience, or they're even told to do so because, this is presumably this is a show trying to be for the general audience, and you don't know who you're going to alienate, what sort of bigots you're going to alienate. So I don't know. But the way that they were using she in reference to each other seemed natural. So, so originally when I saw that they were she, they, I was planning on they, them. And then when I heard them referring to each other as she, I was like, oh, well, then I guess she. So I don't know, maybe I'll work that out as I go. Mel and Marie, I don't think we've seen them in depth yet. They're she, her, and now we're with, and then there's Dana and Megan. Similar situation with Megan and Pilar. Megan, she says she's Arab, Lebanese, and that her family is not supportive of their gay relationship. And she said specifically something along the lines of, no one in my community, in the Lebanese community, is out and proud. So so it sounds like that's a major barrier for marriage. And, I've talked about this before in other shows that for mainstream Americans, it might be easier to discount your parents putting up barriers, right? You say, well, it'd be nice if my family were on board, but my marriage is mine, and so I'm going to get married. For other people, given the way that they're raised, the meaning of marriage and the meaning of family and the meaning of family cohesion and acceptance is way different. And it can seem like, well, why Megan, if you're, and although I'm half Japanese, I have, I'm fourth generation. My great grandparents came over 125 years ago. So my culture is basically mainstream American. So when I hear people having those hesitations, I'm like, but it's true love. Doesn't that override your parents' bigotry and your parents' hesitation or something? And but most people around the world actually operate from a different set of meanings and purposes that it's hard for me to relate to, but that doesn't mean that it's not invalid. So I have to understand that, just how much of a conundrum it is for the Megans and the Pilar. So Megan was talking about how it was as Pilar was talking in the dinner scene, Megan didn't share her own part of it, apparently, even off the edit, but because Megan and Dana were talking. Anyway, and now we're looking at Ashley and Marita, she, her. They've been together for 3 years. Something interesting about the two of them is that Ashley's 30 and Marita is 25. Not that 25-year-olds can't settle down, but I'm looking at all their ages. They're all generally in their late 20s. They're almost consistently all like 27, 28, 29. The oldest is 30, which is Dana here, and the youngest is Marita, 25. But, it's not a huge age difference, but 25 and 30 for a lot of people in American culture is a pretty big jump, right? Where you start, maybe even specifically just turning 30. It's just like, oh my God, I'm in my 30s. I've got to settle down, and I don't know. I don't know how they're thinking, but I could imagine Marita thinking, I'm 25. Plus another factor, increasingly less so or decreasingly so over time, but I'm imagining still a common experience, is that for LGBTQ plus people, since bigotry is so strong, particularly in some communities, these individuals either don't allow themselves to self-identify as who they are, or they're not allowed to live the life that they want and need. And therefore, dating is put off. There's hindrances so that they have delayed progression through the kinds of experiences that are educative to yourself as to who you are and what sort of relationships you want, that kind of thing. So, even though 25 is 25, you've lived some life, it's possible for some LGBTQ plus people that in terms of how much practice they've had. Now, I don't want to make any assumptions, who knows? And certainly there are cis-het people who lack experience, that sort of. The other thing to think about is the pandemic, in that for Marita, she would have been 21 during the pandemic, right? So what sort of hindrances did that put on not only dating, but social life in general? I don't know. It's something we have to start thinking about as we, in these shows, have people that are graduating into the age groups that will be on reality TV, and they would have had that experience. Again, it depends on where they were and what their situation was. Anyway, so for the two of them, and I suppose as another factor is that maybe some people got together during the pandemic, right? And how that might affect things. It might have even helped things, right? Because you depend on each other or something. But Mel and Marie are 4 years, and this usually is filmed a year prior. So anyway, point is that now we're talking about. So okay. So Ashley says, Marita, I'm ready to take this step, Marita, and the problem is that you have this wandering eye. So I wonder what that means exactly. I mean, there's the classic of you're out and about and Marita's like, ooh, check out her or whatever. Or is it actual talking about, ooh, I want to date someone, or I don't know. I mean, I'd have a hard time believing that Ashley would bring up just that Marita just likes to check out other people in public. I mean, maybe that's all that it is. But anyway, so then Marita agrees, which was interesting because I thought, ooh, but then Marita says, yeah, I do have a wandering eye. Let's rewatch that.
My wandering eyes are only because, I'm trying to figure out what's best for me. And, if staying in this relationship means I feel empty, then
Yeah, wow. What? There's so much packed in. Again, I can't know what people mean by the certain words that they're using. She has some in her teeth. That's embarrassing. So the perils of HD television. Stacy, my wife, a model and actress, and she'll say, because, back in the day there was less resolution, and so if you had a zit or something, it wouldn't show up as clearly, but she's often feeling sorry for the current people on television with the HD cameras and the large screen TVs, and you could see every hair sometimes. Anyway, so including that little thing, because I think in standard definition back in the day you wouldn't have noticed that. Anyway, so Marita says, well, I have a wandering eye because what does she say? Because I feel empty. What did she say?
my wandering eyes are only because, I'm trying to figure out what's best for me.
My wandering eyes are because I'm trying to figure out what's best for me. What does that mean? What's best for me? I mean, certainly it sounds self-centric, right? You would think that someone in Marita's shoes would say, yeah, I'm sorry that I do that. I'm trying to work on it, because it's fine for someone to think about what's best for them. But if you're in the process hurting your partner, or selfishly thinking, well, there's no consequence. I don't know what she means by it, though. The wandering eye could be a reference between the two of them about how she just wonders if this is where she should be. I don't know what they mean, so maybe they'll clarify. But then she says empty. She says she feels empty. That's a word, right? To feel empty, and I feel empty. It's one thing to say I feel unsure about this relationship, or I feel like my needs aren't being met entirely. But if I feel empty with you, and Also, it might say something about Marita's personality in general. There's maybe a general proneness to feeling. I don't know. You probably know because you've watched ahead, I'm guessing. Although some of you don't even watch the show and you just watch my reaction videos, so I guess you're just as in the dark as me. But in the comments, let me know what you think about that word, empty.
And like, if staying in this relationship means I feel empty, then I am curious. I mean, it's normal to be curious about.
It's normal to be. Now, of course, there's the polyamorous question mark, right? They're not explicitly talking about that, but it seems like maybe there's a hint of maybe even some curiosity about that for Marita. I don't know. But that's a pretty strong statement, right? Marita. The way Marita is talking is the way people talk when they're breaking up with someone. And that's always the question about this show is what sort of couples come on the show, right? I think you have some couples where they are truly in love and bonded and they are on the verge of getting married and there's just one small, or one, not one small, but there's a barrier to that final step. And if they could just kind of get over that hump, then they'll get married. You know, Pilar and Haley seem like candidates for that. You know, maybe Dana and Megan, right? Or yeah, Dana and Megan. But other couples might come on the show because they've been dating for a couple years and one person really just wants to take it to the next step and is feeling insecure about things, which is fine. And the other person really just is unsure and or knows that they don't want to get married and are just wanting casual, or they have one foot out the door. So I would imagine this couple might be the latter, but who knows?
Well, I know, but
Other relation, like,
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
not getting the love that I need.
That was edited funny. It looked like a different look, but it fits what she's saying. I mean, I'm surprised Ashley hadn't had that face earlier when she said the word empty in the relationship. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of statements there. I feel empty in this relationship. Yes, I have a wandering eye because I'm curious. And she says it's natural to be curious. When you have major questions about your relationship, it's natural to be curious, but it's not natural to be curious in all relationships. I have no curiosity in my marriage. I have zero curiosity. Partly, well, I'm not going to go into details, but you know, I don't have those question marks. So, might some people? Yeah, it depends on. Anyway, point is that it's not just inherent. Anyway, so Marita then says, "I'm not getting my needs met," and that's a pretty big statement, right? And I'm guessing that if I were to ask Marita and have a longer conversation, she would say, "No, I'm getting some of my needs met, but just not enough," or something like that, because that's a pretty harsh statement. I feel empty and I'm not getting my needs met at all. Now, maybe that's true, but that sounds like the sort of thing someone would say when they've been done for a while. You know?
You know I love you. You know
I
you
know.
have a huge heart, and I do appreciate and love everything that you give me. I think that there's more that you could do.
Okay, I wonder what that is. So Ashley says, "I've been giving everything to you and I feel like you're not appreciating it." I wonder what she means by that exactly. If she generally just feels underappreciated or if what she's saying is, "Hey, I'm loving you. Why don't you love me?" And that statement, although common, doesn't make sense, because if two people are having different feelings towards each other, the person who has more feelings can't say, "Well, you now have to be in love with me as much as because of how much love I feel for you." And I think that that's a common feeling. It's natural to feel that way. But I also think it kind of comes from Disney a bit, because it's almost never the case in rom-coms and other kinds of depictions in which there is a difference there. So the way that it looks is that Ashley's really wanting to be with Marita and very much in love. And Marita just is not. And all's fair in love and war, as they say. And this is what they're talking about. It's like if Maria doesn't love Ashley, then that's not a shortcoming or a moral problem or an inherently hurtful thing. I mean, it will hurt, but it's not, what am I saying? It's not wrong of Marita to not love her as much as Ashley wants her to love her. But it's also possible Ashley feels just generally underappreciated. I'm not sure.
I reach for the stars and like, you know me, I overdo everything.
I know. That's
And that's
tough.
what I
like,
want from you before we get married.
Okay, so just taking notes on that statement. There's so many statements that I don't understand. It's easy to immediately assume I understand what she's saying, but I'm quite sure there's a lot to what she's saying. But I just wrote down, she says, I reach for the stars and I overdo everything. You know me. I reach for the stars and I overdo everything. I reach for the stars and I overdo. That's kind of an interesting word, right? And that's what I want from you before we get married, she says. So you are thinking about getting married in an empty relationship in which you're not getting your need? I don't. So I actually took notes on the Tadum Netflix website, little write-ups of everyone. I only went to that website because I knew they wouldn't have spoilers. But so looking at Marita, 25, Ultimatum receiver, right? She's an account executive. Fun fact, I'm an advanced scuba diver, and I once beat Guy Fieri and his son at go-karting. Okay. That is a fun fact. Though she and so I'm just writing what Netflix is writing. Though she and Ashley have natural chemistry, which isn't really being displayed right now, Marita wishes Ashley prioritized romance more. Marita, okay, so maybe that's what needs Marita is referring to here, romance. Until she sees genuine change, Marita won't settle. So Marita's like, so it sounds like maybe an ongoing conflict that Marita's had, that Ashley is not showing romance, prioritizing romance. And then there's a quote from Marita, I'm not ready to settle for anything less than what I deserve. What I deserve, okay. Yeah, okay. All right, well, we'll see what happens here.
It's just hard sometimes. Like, I feel like I'm doing enough. If you feel like you can't marry me, I am ready to just walk away from this.
Okay, and then looking at Ashley's write-up, she's also an account manager, 30. Fun fact, I'm extremely spontaneous and love traveling or going on crazy adventures. That's no beating Guy Fieri in go-karting, but it's a fun fact. Ashley matched with Marita on a dating app, immediately drawn to her beauty and intriguing conversation. Ashley quickly realized she wanted forever. Ashley quickly realized she wanted to be with Marita forever. I'm tired of her inconsistency and seeking feelings elsewhere. So that's that wandering eye. Yeah, that seeking feelings elsewhere. Okay. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Tune in next time when I continue watching, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.